They know not to say.
Okay, hey everybody. Five Boys in a Business podcast is starting now. And today I have a special guest with me. You're going to say your name? Oh, wait, let's back up because Harrison always wants us to say that you can catch our podcast on any podcast service. Do you know what podcast services are?
Yes.
Okay, name one. Can you name a place you can listen to a podcast?
All Star Veterinary Clinic.
Okay, yes, you could possibly listen to them on our Facebook page, YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Spotify.
Yes.
Okay. So those are some of the places that people can find them.
Yes.
And we're talking about the business.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about boys.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
Okay. And who are we missing in the podcast today? Who's missing? Who's supposed to be here that's not here?
Richie.
Daddy-o. So we'll get him in here in just a few minutes. But I thought that you would be a special guest today. Why don't you tell everybody who you are?
My name is Calvin King, and what I always do,
Is what?
I usually help my mom take care of our pets that we have at our house.
Okay, good.
And we feed them, and I have a pet that's hate dogs, so I keep him near dogs.
Oh, who's that? Who doesn't like dogs?
Lenny.
What is he?
He's a boy that has trick of his sneeze when it comes near him, and so he usually comes to my room when I just wake up in the morning, and he comes downstairs sometimes because that's his favorite place to hide.
Is in the basement.
Yeah.
So tell everybody how old you are.
How old I am is 8. My birthday was just 1 month ago.
It was. Yes, it was. You can look at me when you're talking if you want.
Nah.
No, you like to look down there? Would you like to see yourself talking? Is that why?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you feel like you're on camera?
No.
No. Okay. So you're 8 years old. What school do you go to?
Our Lady of Grace.
What? Our Lady of Grace. A shout out to all the people at Our Lady of Grace. Why aren't you in school today? It's Monday.
Because the teachers, Mrs. Algram,
Yes.
they have a conversation with the other teachers, so I don't have school on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh my gosh. You got 4 days, a long 4-day weekend.
Yep.
Because they had a staff retreat and then they have today off, don't they?
Yep.
Yep. Are you happy about that?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh my. That was loud. No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so let's see here. What else? What was your favorite thing you did this weekend?
Do backflips.
Can you do backflips?
Yes.
You can do a backflip on what? The
Trampoline.
Exactly. And you can do a couple in a row.
Yeah.
That's your favorite thing to do when you're at home? Yeah?
Even my cousin sometimes is here.
Your cousin will come over and play?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject is math.
Really? Math. Who would have thought it was math? Do you really love math the best? Fascinating. So you don't mind doing your math facts?
Yeah.
You don't?
Yeah.
You like doing your math homework?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Do you like reading?
No.
No. Okay. Next question. Who is your favorite YouTube star?
So it's like a YouTuber?
Yeah. Who do you think's your favorite one?
I think there's like 3.
Oh, there's 3. Okay. Who are they? Who are your favorites?
The first one is Mr. Top 5.
Mr. Who?
Mr. Top 5.
Mr. Top 5 Harrison. Do you know who that is? Nope. Okay. Okay. Who else?
And Shadow Cool.
Who's that?
YouTuber.
Yeah.
When he has 5 views, subscriber. He used to be Minecraft player.
Okay. And who else?
So, and Lux. He's a YouTuber too.
Harry, you know any of those guys? You're getting old.
I'm not getting old.
Okay. So, okay. What do you say at this point in the podcast? We bring your father in.
No.
No. You don't want Dad to come join us for the
No.
podcast? What are we going to... You got to put your phone down, or Dad's phone down. Okay.
I
So...
want to play the music.
Oh, you want to play some music? Okay, well, why don't you play the music and lead Dad in on the music?
Why?
Play it and Dad will come strolling in.
Why?
It's like his entry. Like you want him to just like...
Dad's got to be on the podcast.
Yeah, he's got to be on the podcast.
But after Dad's turn, can I come back in?
Oh, yeah, you can just sit on my lap if you want.
Nah, I want to be in my own chair.
Oh, you want your own chair. Okay, I got it. You can sit here. You want to sit here?
Then how were I able to talk?
Well, you can just lean over and talk.
No, I can just move it.
You could. Yep. Okay. So, let's bring Dad in without further ado.
I put the music.
Oh, you're playing him an entry song? Okay, let's hear it.
But
What you
can I
got?
put it in the speaker?
We'll just play it up close to it. Yeah.
And it'll make it up.
Yeah. It will.
Despacito.
Oh, okay. Oh,
It's the green guy.
I like it. Okay. Oh, that's the ad. Don't come in yet, Dad. It's the ad. Okay.
Nice. My sleep score is 82.
Okay. Are you skipping that? Skip that.
It won't let me.
Oh,
Bienvenidos a la cripta. Dame tu cosita.
you gotta dance.
Cosita.
No.
Ay, dame tu cosita.
All right, Pops. Let's go. Here he comes.
Ay, dame tu cosita.
Straight from East Tennessee.
Ay, dame tu cosita.
Okay.
Muévete para aquí, muévete
Okay.
para allá.
Papa squat.
Dame tu cosita.
This is me?
Okay. Sit down. All right. Okay. There's your hat. You're ready to go? All right. So, Dad,
Yo.
what you got? It's good to have you join us on the podcast.
Good to be here.
The Calvin and Emily podcast. So, what do you want to talk about this week?
What do you want to talk about this week?
We wanted some more funny stories.
Oh, boy.
Tell us one of your favorite kid stories, our kid stories.
There's something I told you this weekend, and I said, I don't think I've ever told you that story. Do you remember what it was?
No.
I said, I don't think I've ever told even
I think you had.
this.
I had heard that story before, just so you know. I can remember what it is because I remember when you were saying it, and I was like, oh, no, I have heard that story.
Huh.
Tell the story about one of the kids when they were sleeping, and you went upstairs to get them.
When? This weekend?
When they were a baby, when Holden was a baby.
Oh, God. Ugh. There's lots of them. One time I went upstairs and Holden's. We have all of our bedrooms are in the second story of our house, and I went upstairs and at the top of the steps, immediately to the right, is where Holden's room was at the time. And I remember walking past, and I was like, God, what is that smell? Ugh. And I was just like sniffing around. I was like, good God, this is horrible. So I opened up Holden's door finally, and it's like this billow of stink. And I was like, what? And when Holden had gotten sick in his bed and just laid his head back down after he got sick and went back to sleep.
We went back to sleep.
So-
Or Johnny, remember Johnny used to take his diaper off.
Oh, nap time used to be rough.
That time was great, but then bad.
Let's say that. Let's put it this
It was
way.
like Christmas.
Calvin was a Johnny was a finger painter, but with the wrong stuff. He defiled his wall on several occasions.
Calvin, he would wear a diaper, and we'd have to put duct tape on his diaper
We used to
so
have to
he
put-
wouldn't take it off. 'cause
No, we
he
used to have to
would
put onesies on
in
backwards.
his diaper, and then he would take and then smear the poop on his wall.
Oh, it was awful.
That happened twice, I think.
Oh, yeah, twice.
That was horrible. And no one wanted to go get him up from his nap because we were all worried that we were going to find something bad up there.
You could have just put your feet and go like.
Yes. I have a feeling if you would have gone up and gotten Johnny, you would have just turned right back around and left.
Right.
Yep.
I'll
Yep.
just go sneaking in there, just run back out.
Oh my gosh.
Get Johnny. And just like change his diaper.
Yes. Well, it was just one of those things. It just happens. So,
Or mommy, I would like take a you know those micro things that you hold and you speak into it?
Yep.
I'll go like, Jesus stinks in here.
Yes, you. Oh gosh.
Put it down and just go back out with the Johnny and just clean it up.
Yep.
And take his diaper out.
Yep.
Put it in the garbage.
Put it in the garbage. So, yeah, I mean.
Then the garbage will smell like crap.
Yep, it would, because that's what was in it.
Or I could throw
Truly.
it in the outside garbage.
That would be better. Yes, exactly. That would be better.
I remember once in church when Harrison was little, we were in, it was, for whatever reason, this mass was just really packed. And Harrison had messed his diaper, and it stunk really bad. And I'm looking at the lady next to me going, really, this isn't me. Honestly, that's not me.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, those are stories where you're just like, I just got to make it through. I got to just
keep plugging.
Just keep plugging. Yeah, there's so many stories like that. Oh my gosh.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
So this week, as far as business goes, yes, sir.
Was there a story when I was a baby?
Oh, there's plenty of stories. You want to hear a story about Harrison when you were a baby? Harrison was in 8th or 9th grade when you were born. And I said, Harrison, I need you to watch Calvin for me because...
That wasn't 9th grade. It was after that because he was walking.
He was walking, so maybe it was a sophomore.
Harrison, you were in 8th grade, right?
He was a freshman when he was born. It was his freshman year.
Okay.
And
I think he was a junior when this happened because he had to be 2.
And so Calvin was an escape artist. Like, escape artist. Could open doors, left the house. He'd be found down by the mailbox. We do watch the child. But however, he's sneaky. And so... I had to go do something probably with one of the other kids, and I was like, Harrison, I need you to watch Calvin in the basement for me, and I'll be back. I've just got to go probably pick up one of the kids. I had to do something probably with school or whatever. And you weren't home, and so Harrison was in charge of him, and we had to put gates at the basement because, remember, he would leave the basement.
Right.
And so we had a gate at the bottom of the stairs, and we had the basement was baby-proofed or whatever.
Right.
And Calvin was able to crawl around and play or whatever. But I came home, and I was like, oh, it's really quiet. You know, they must still, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're just hanging out in the basement. And so I went downstairs, and what do I find? Harrison asleep on the floor, and Calvin just tooling around the basement, doing whatever he wanted.
No, he was upstairs.
Oh, no, he was upstairs, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's what it was, because I came in, and you were upstairs. So you had gotten through the gate. He had gotten through the gate, and you were upstairs, and that's why I was freaking out, because he knew how to open front doors.
Right.
Because, remember, we had to
switch all the locks.
We had to leash the front door shut so he wouldn't open it.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Don't you remember that? We had to, like, tie it shut because you would go outside, and you wouldn't just go outside. You go outside and go, like, down the sidewalk, down the driveway.
I remember him going to the mailbox.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
the
remember
mailbox.
him going past that. It's
Yeah.
possible he did. Now, Trevor did that once. Trevor was in the garage with me at our Edinburgh house, and he was playing in the front yard, and I turned my back and was doing something, and you came out and said, I'm going for a run.
Oh, yeah.
And then I looked around, I was like, where's Trevor at? And then you got back from your run.
And Trevor, you
Could
and
not
Lori
find
back
him.
because we're looking for Trevor.
And then I drove, and I was like, wait a minute. So I drove the route that you took when you ran, and he was
with some
quarter
ladies.
mile.
Remember
Yeah.
the old ladies had him?
Yeah, these ladies are like, where do you live? And they're like, do you know this person? He's like, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that was pretty
yeah.
funny. But yeah, so let's see here. What else did you do?
Got on the
remember
roof.
another one.
You got on the roof.
You got on the roof.
Holden had the ladder out for something, maybe to get something off the roof.
Right.
But he
Left
didn't put
the ladder up.
He didn't put the ladder away, so Johnny comes running in and saying, Calvin's on the roof. Calvin's on the roof. I was like, what? So we run out there, and he was on the roof of the garage. But you were little. Maybe
Yes, he was
2.5 or
little.
3.
No, he was older than that, probably. He was probably
like
4. Not that it makes it any better, but you were.
No, that wasn't 4 years ago. That could have been 4 years ago.
Yes, it was. Because Kim and Randy were still there, and
Well, they just moved last year.
yeah, well. And let's see here. What else? Oh, I remember when I had a truck, and I was unloading a truck. And so I left the keys in the ignition because I was standing at the tailgate, remember?
Like you do. Go
Like I
ahead.
do. And I was standing at the tailgate unloading the thing. So I was at the truck. You were just messing around in the back seat of the truck. And I'm unloading things like bags of like rocks. I'm
Right.
throwing them onto the ground, and I turn around, I take one, I unload it, I turn around, and the truck is going down the driveway. You put the truck out of park into neutral, and there it went down the driveway with you in it.
When was that? I don't
That
remember
was when we lived at this house, the current house.
Right.
Wait,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But did I get saved?
Well, yeah, you didn't know, you're still here. Nothing happened to you.
Oh.
So you were just in the truck. The doors were shut.
How did you stop it? Just open it, put it back in gear?
Oh no, it rolled to the other side. It went up that person's drive and
Across the
back down.
street?
Yes.
Oh Lord, I'm sure the neighbors are shaking their heads and going, "Say it's CPS on speed dial."
That is why I can't believe any of our children are still alive, because there are so many stories
Right.
of things happening to
I
them.
don't even remember that.
That's because you were little and you just like to get in trouble.
Is there over stories about me?
Oh, there's all kinds of stories about
Can
you.
you tell me all the other ones?
Well, no, that would take too long.
Please.
No.
Just one more. Can we do one more?
Oh, one more story. Dad, do you know another one off the top of your head?
Oh boy. I know that you are a sweet fiend.
Oh, yes.
Chocolate and Callie
Someone's
are
famous
great
for,
friends.
I can eat all of that package of donuts. Oh, but my stomach hurts.
I can eat Rolos.
You can eat more sweets than anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, something when I was a baby.
Oh, something from when you were a baby.
That
I remember one time when your mother, just had you home from the hospital. He was still an infant. I think you were still on leave, and then you had fed him, and your mother put you on the footrest, the ottoman, and I got like. I
he
remember
can roll
looking.
off of there.
I said, "Are you sure?" She goes, "Oh, he'll be fine." He'll be
Oh
fine."
no, because you were saying he'll roll off of there. And
I was like,
no,
"Oh,
he
he'll grow."
can't roll yet.
And you're like, "I can't do it." So I was like, "All right, don't know what I'm doing here. Only done this for 4 kids before." And so we're in the kitchen. We hear boom, 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 and a kid crying. I was like, "Told you."
You rolled right off the ottoman onto the floor.
No, they inch. They're like, they're quasi crawling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And boom, there you went, straight down to the floor.
One more.
This isn't the Calvin hour.
It's the Calvin show.
This is the Calvin show. Dun-dun-dun.
Mommy, can we do
I-
one
I-
more when I was a baby?
Ask Harrison. Harrison, do you remember any funny stories about Calvin? Do you have anything funny to share? Yes,
All
I
the
think-
boys, though, I'm sure this is, and Calvin didn't take to the water nearly as well. Watch out, sit down. And but I remember looking outside once I was doing dishes because the pool's in the backyard and you can see. I look outside and they're all butt naked, jumping off of the stump into the pool.
Into the pool.
I
Yeah.
was like, I'm sure the neighbors are looking at, going, what are they doing over there?
Oh gosh. You guys.
Oh, and this weekend, I'll tell you a funny story. And we had a bonfire this weekend, and of course, Johnny and Calvin were out there. And no sooner had Johnny created a torch and was running around the yard that Calvin had to have a torch as well. And my initial thought was, I'm sure some caveman 1,000,000 years ago was looking at his kids running around outside the cave with a torch going, get back in here. And nothing's changed in all those millennia and years
still,
that there's kids are drawn, or boys, our boys at least, are drawn to fire like moth to a flame. And you can't get enough of it. And, so.
So yeah, you guys had fun this weekend.
Bought the plane this weekend. You got a blast with this plane. We've been watching a YouTube channel called Flight Test, where they build planes, RC planes, and fly them, and they'll put unusual things in the air. So I went to the hobby shop this weekend. I was kind of over there near REI, and I bought him just one of those foam throw planes. And he and Johnny had so much fun just in the backyard messing around with that. And it didn't last maybe 2 or 3 hours, but it was only a few bucks, and it was
after
they had a lot of
10
fun.
minutes, there was duct tape involved.
Duct tape
After
involved.
The duct tape, the roof was involved.
Well, the roof was involved, and then someone chopped off the end of the wings to make it fly faster. And I was like, well, it has to fly for we can fly faster. It did fly.
Who was that person? Yeah, exactly.
Daddy, can we do one that when I was a baby, not like my age, what I'm age right now?
You want something from when you were a baby.
Yeah.
What's another thing from when you were a baby?
I remember this. I remember when he was a baby, he'd go with me to go get the kids from school, and it's probably a 20 to 25 minute drive to Our Lady of Grace, and he wasn't a good traveler in the car. And that's actually where I got into podcasts. So I'd have to put headphones in and listen to something. But then I found that
so we have just keep having
High School
children's-
Musical, he liked it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I would run that on a loop in the car, and that would at least get us there and back without your ears bleeding too much. But
Nothing
he
going to a school that's 20 minutes away.
and the Harrison didn't travel in the car very well either. We were very new parents, but I remember thinking this is going to be the death of me. But yeah, it's good.
Final story. There was one time when I was watching Calvin, and he was in his high chair. This high chair that we had like the table, but on top of the table you could put like a cover on it that snapped in on both sides.
Oh yeah.
And so Calvin had his fingers like on the edge, like where he was sitting. And I remember cleaning out the thing and putting it back on there, and all of a sudden I hear him like just wailing. I was like, "What's going on?" And I look at him. I look at him and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm like, "What's okay?" And I go back and like he starts like crying again, and I'm like, "What is happening?" And I go back and I didn't realize, and then I go back again and I realized that his fingers were stuck underneath the thing. I was like, "Oh no!" And so I took them off, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that."
Never a dull moment.
Oh gosh. Well, that was it. That was all we got. We'll tell you more later.
Why don't you come over here and play it on phone or something?
Yeah. Take my
Yeah.
phone
Okay. Tell everybody thank you.
Everybody bye.
Take it.
Tell everybody bye. Say thank you.
Mommy, I thought I was gonna do one.
You want to do more of the podcast? I'll let you come back at,
Yeah,
at
go
the
over there.
end of the podcast.
Go over there with Harry.
Okay. All right.
Sit on the couch right there if you want.
So, this week in business, dun, 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 I must say that everyone last week thought I was too stressed out on the podcast. I had more than one person say, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh wow." Was my demeanor such that gave the impression that I was drowning? So I might have been, but I could still breathe, so I was fine.
Right.
So
That's good.
So to all those people worried about me, I appreciate it. But
You were
I'm doing just fine.
yeah, you were a little down, a little
I was
Debbie
just
Downer last week.
listen. I didn't mean to be Debbie Downer. I was just organizing all of those things in my brain that I was rifling through, all the challenges, lining them up.
I do
so
think that it's
could-
very difficult to let things go sometimes, and I think it's a challenge that most leaders have, is that because a lot of things, if you really think about it, probably shouldn't be entering your mind if they're delegated out properly, because at that point you're not necessarily responsible for the final solution. The other person is.
Yeah, but I think that when you are the top of the leaderboard, then still everything's in your privy. Whether you are responsible for the task, the end result of the task, you're still responsible for the outcome.
I know, but think about this though. We're a 30+ person company. How does a CEO of a 10,000, 100,000 employee company do it without losing their mind? And the only way they can do it is to compartmentalize and then delegate out.
I'm not saying you do the work. I'm saying that you're still responsible for the end result, because you have to make sure that your people are performing the way they should be performing.
Okay.
That is true.
No, I'm saying that, like we talk about in the book, the Extreme Ownership book, you can only supervise 4 to 6. So you're only looking at 4 to 6.
I'm not supervising, but I'm still responsible for making sure that the 4 to 6 people that I am supervising are doing their job. And by the way,
So how is that overwhelming then if you're only looking at 4 to 6 issues?
I'm not, because
Exactly. That's the point. Is that if you're only looking
You're
at 4 to
wrong.
6. I'm,
Put your mic closer to your face, or not closer, just like up where your mouth is.
yeah, you are.
I'm what? Correct?
No, you are not correct.
No, and it's kind of what we talked about this morning a little
sorry.
bit, right? Do you want to control? You have to decide. Do you want to control the process, or are you just interested in the outcome? Because I think that's a trap that people fall into. Is they'll tell their people, "I want you to do this, but in the process of doing this, I want you to do da da da." Well, then you're not delegating and managing that issue. You're saying, "I want you to do it, but you have to do it." These 10 steps that I'm giving you.
No. I'm not saying that you are the
Because
one telling
then
them how
then
to
it is
do it.
Then it is overwhelming.
I'm saying that in the end, if it's not done, then it still is a stressor, because the success or the failure still is it's still your success or your failure. If you own all of it, then I didn't teach the person underneath me to teach the person underneath them to do
but
it
I'm curious
correctly.
about the stress level. If you trust in the process and you trust the individual that you've placed in that position to perform and to accomplish whatever mission they've been assigned, where does the stress? I mean, genuinely, where does the stress come in if you've already?
It's super easy to sit in your chair and say,
No, I'm saying that.
I'm
I'm serious though, because if you do this, you say, "I'm giving you this mission. I trust in your abilities. I trust in your judgment. I trust that you can accomplish this mission." Then it's like in that book he talks about, you wipe it off because of the commander's intent. You know that this individual can accomplish the mission. So it's at that point, I'm
And
not
when-
worried about whether they can accomplish the mission. I know they're going to do it.
No, I know they're going to do it. I'm talking about larger global things
Okay.
that someone in my position is responsible for figuring out or generating or delegating.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's too hard to explain.
I don't think it is.
I think it is.
I think. Okay. Yeah.
No, what?
I think that I just always go back to that. I was like, how do these people do it without losing their minds when the stakes are so much higher and the people and the issues are so much larger? How do they do it? And they do it. The only way I think they do it is
But
because
ultimately, if the
you
business
trust in the
does not succeed, it is their responsibility to make sure that it succeeds. They get fired if the business isn't doing well. They would ultimately get fired if their stock price was in the dumper or they weren't turning their numbers in. Eventually that person gets moved.
The
They
leader.
moved on,
Yeah.
to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for that to happen to me. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I guess it's so interesting, and you kind of I alluded to it last week when I said it's so interesting people's takes on things because, I mean,
I just take things way more personally. I am much more personally
I'm just way more analytic, I think, about things like that.
tied to the success of everything and everyone.
But see, that's overwhelming, and I think that's the Achilles heel of that paradigm and approach is you can't
It's not
say
overwhelming though.
no. Yeah, but if it's not overwhelming, then where does the stress come from?
It comes from working. It's just you gotta have. I mean, there's stress when you work.
I know, but
It's not debilitating. It's not keeping me from being healthy. It's not keeping me.
okay.
from,
Well, that's kind of going down a long road to say if it's not keeping you from being healthy. I mean, no, I'm saying your mental, your mind only has so much capacity. So if you've got the system set up such that you don't have to worry about it, like look at a process here. If you have a certain department, for instance, you have a leader there, everything is running like a machine because you've given that leader the leeway and the tools to accomplish their mission, then that's not a stressor anymore because that mission's already accomplished. So that's off your plate as a leader. I mean,
right,
it's
but
at the
now
back
that
of your
person,
mind.
if that person isn't performing,
Yeah, but
then
you
it's
sit- I'm not-
your responsibility to make sure that that person performs. So it is.
What's the default, though? I mean, the default is failure. Well, then you may not have the right person there.
Well, yeah, I get that.
So, I mean, failure. I mean, my point is success has to outweigh failure by a wide margin, or else if it's 50-50, that's not good. That's not the right person.
Oh no, I think our success outweighs our failure by so much so that the minute failures then seem larger than they are because you don't have them very often.
Right.
But I also think as businesses evolve, which is what ours is doing, is changing, as it's growing, it's changing and trying to keep something, keep some aspects of it the same because it's what's made the success of the business. That's where it gets stressful because ultimately, to some degree, it's some of the design of or thinking of how to design it such that happens, that you don't lose that you don't grow the business so much so that then you lose what you were, which is what made you what you are.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of go to the critical mass and the culture aspect of any organization where at some point, if someone, say for instance, if one individual disappoints a client, say Chick-fil-A, it doesn't mean the end of Chick-fil-A or that their culture is compromised or that they're not going to accomplish their global mission of customer satisfaction. And I think that's where you can get so, not you, but I mean people can get so focused on the failures instead of looking at the other 1,000 successes that you lose sight. You're like, I'm trying to prevent this failure, but at some point you're like the critical mass and of the organization and the existing culture that's inherent with the organization will propel you forward to a certain extent. So you can focus on the failure, and that's on you need to work on those, but it's not going to cause the mission overall to fail.
Right.
So I think that's where sometimes we get into this trap of, well, this one thing, it's like, okay, listen, I get it. This one person may not have been 100% satisfied, but you satisfied 100 other clients today, 1,000%. So,
right.
So as a stressor, you have to put it in context, I guess is the point.
No, I agree with that. I think that's, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that things are in, for my own, like when I'm dealing with, because not only do I deal with my own clients that I see, but then, if there is somebody that's unhappy, then making sure that we figure out why So that, but
Right.
that's not, that's part of that part of the job does not stress me out, because I feel like if we're doing everything that we should be doing, then, we really just don't manage that very much. It's far and few between.
Right.
That's aspect, like client dissatisfaction is not something I'm concerned with.
Right.
But how the organization is changing so that it doesn't change, like I said, so much so that now you don't know who you are. So all
Is
the
that really
processes
that common though? You hear people say that, but I often wonder if that's really.
I think if you're not paying attention to it, it can happen very easily.
Yeah, but to me, that's almost a process problem. Where I know
Exactly.
I'm a huge Chick-fil-A fan, but I look at how big that company is, and you go to a
Exactly.
store here in Carmel, or you go to California, it's the same experience.
Well, because it's a process problem. Exactly. So you got to make sure that your processes. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that your processes are in place so that doesn't happen.
Right.
Well, somebody's got to think of the processes so that doesn't happen. And yes, your leaders do, and they do to some extent. But I think that I've always viewed my job as like an overarching, like watching from above and seeing that, yes, that process might work for that one particular thing, but how does that overarching, like how does that lead us so that we're accomplishing the greater strategic mission? So I think when I'm talking about the stressors, that's one of the things I'm talking about, not, and like we've talked about, you got to have time to be able to think about those ideas.
Right.
Because if you're doing your minute tasks during the day, I find that I don't have time to think about that, to come up with the bigger picture.
Right.
Of ideas, of things. And some of the ideas that we throw out aren't good ones. But then there are others that come from those brainstorming sessions.
But let's say that you are say an individual said, I just want to be a veterinarian. I own the business, but I just want to do this. And you then empowered people, you brought people in from the outside and empowered them to accomplish that particular goal or mission that you're talking about.
Well, yeah, at that point, your main goal is you don't care what's happening other than you're just practicing medicine.
When you care insofar as your vested interest in the
but then
the
your
business.
why is different than our why. So their why is something like, I just want to practice medicine because it makes me happy. All I want to do is see patients. I don't want to manage people. I don't want to da-da-da. So their why is completely different. So they don't care about some of these other things that we care about. Whereas, like the book that we're reading, the Leaders Eat Last book, we're trying to make a difference in people's lives. So I think to do that requires more thought than I'm just going to practice medicine.
Right.
Because who else is going to create the vision of that? Your people that you hire in are.
Right.
If they understand the vision, they're going to do it. But it's us verbalizing the vision and the mission over and over and over again, so that everybody understands that's their primary objective.
Right.
So they're practicing high quality medicine, yes. And that's an objective of maybe that individual doctor, which all of our doctors do because that's a requirement. But also they're trying to change somebody's life for the better. Well, there's certain processes that have to be in place.
Right.
And you're just nodding.
No, I'm not nodding.
And those processes have to be in place such that.
Okay, you keep talking about all these things. Okay, and I guess what I keep coming back to is you're listing off all these things that you're talking about and the stressors that are inherent. And what I'm saying is you have to choose what lane you want to be in. If let's say you never saw another patient again and you're just the manager of an organization, the stress goes down dramatically because you're not managing individual cases and this and that.
Well, yeah, of course.
So that's what I'm saying is, but at that point you're choosing which lane you want to operate in
Right.
instead of, and where I people
you
say.
have to get that at some point. I know you're giving me the eye. You keep interrupting me. You have to agree that at some point in an organization's lifespan, you have to be multiple things. There is no other way to do it. That financially the corporation can't withstand paying you to be something different than what you're being. So like when we started the company, I couldn't just be like, oh yeah, this is what I like to do. I'm not going to do these other things because you wouldn't have the money.
No, I know that. But I'm saying, yeah, I mean, you're drawing a distinction between a startup situation and an ongoing concern, been around for a while situation. Like that book we're reading, Leaders Eat Last. A lot of the things are in there are very good, but some of those things are designed for like a huge organization where you can afford to do those things. I mean, you can afford to say, okay, great. I think isn't that book where they said that somebody started a company, they just don't fire anybody. I mean, they just put them. I mean, in terms of safety, under the context and umbrella of have a safe work environment, no one gets fired. You take them and you train them and you work with them such that no one can ever be let go. And I was like, that's great. And I mean, that's great in theory. If it's an IBM or some huge organization like that, where you just, HR can pick you out of this department, put you here. But in a startup situation, you kind of have to move it or lose it. So sometimes. So I think some of those books are great, but you almost have to pick and choose some of the concepts out of there. So this is good, but I really can't do this. Or you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that his main message is that if you create a certain work culture, then people stick around, and that people stick around then to be present for each other, which makes them more profitable and productive.
Right.
So in that book, he gives the example, which you haven't gotten to yet, of the 3M, and that they were allowed to trade information across departments, and that how that then exponentially improved the number of product development because now they could trade information across departments.
Right.
But I mean, it is just, I think that when I was reading the book, flabbergasted at the studies in that 4th chapter where he goes through all the studies of people who stay at jobs who don't want to be in jobs, and they stay there anyway for whatever reason, whether it be they think that it's going to be worse someplace else, or at least this is something, or and the people that aren't willing to leave, or the studies that show that really the biggest stressors for people are not feeling empowered, and then that's what leads to poor health and things like that. So not being able to make decisions in your work environment, or feeling like you can be responsible for, the more you're responsible for, the better off you are.
Right.
And so it just goes to the extreme ownership book of being, setting people up to be empowered and to make decisions.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Why did you say I agree?
No, I think, I don't know. I think it's a very different animal. I've been out of big companies for so long but I could totally see that happening where someone just kind of settles and they're riding it out until they retirement or other, whatever. But part of that's on them. I mean, if you're choosing to stick around, it's like, listen, you're choosing to stay here. Right. Because the alternative is, for whatever reason, and your logic isn't
scary.
Isn't
not
well,
worth
it's
it.
not great enough for you to want to jump. So
Right.
I mean, but some people will. I remember seeing guys that openly say they didn't like their job, but they didn't go anywhere. So
Right.
it's like, well, whose fault is that really? That's not the company's fault. It's not your boss's fault. It's kind of your fault. I mean, if you're really that miserable, you probably ought to keep that on the DL. If you're so no one hears about it. But I don't know. I think that So.
No, yeah, I think it's a good topic to have, because I think that what he's pointing out in the book is, or a good conversation to have, is that you as leaders have the ability to change people's lives for the better. So, and we haven't gotten to the part in the book where he talks about how you go about doing that, but how that's a thing. You can do it. And to say that it's just too hard, or it's too expensive, or it's not worth it, or they should just show up because they have a job, or whatever those reasons are, right. That's a cop out. It's like it's being lazy, basically.
Right.
So
I agree. What's up, Tiff?
Classic dad move, I guess.
oh gosh. So that was a serious topic for today.
Yeah.
Very good. Solid topic. It was mainly dad talking, mainly mom talking, and dad just
Nodding. Yes, that is what can happen on some days. Oh gosh, no, that's not true. You do as much talking. Actually, you do way more talking than I do.
No.
If yeah, that is totally true. You're way more talking.
I mostly talk to myself.
Because you'll go.
What? Sure.
So you always laugh because you're like, I talk too much, don't I? And I say no, because I like to listen to you talk.
No, my mind just moves a lot. I mean, so I have ideas and things.
I had a complete dad moment hit me the other day.
What?
Like a Richie moment.
A Richieism?
Where I thought I was being funny. And I was like, I said a joke to Madeline, and I started laughing at myself, and she was like, "You think you're so funny, aren't you?" And I like my eyes were just like, "Oh no."
I'm dad.
No.
I will be sitting there sometimes.
happening!
I'll be sitting there sometimes, and I'll start laughing just to myself. And people have said, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, "I'm thinking about it. It's something that's replayed in my head that I think is hysterical." Or I think of a situation where it would be funny or whatever. A video thing. Or I've always thought, yeah. I mean, I have thoughts go through my head all the time that are funny.
I know you do that where you'll, yeah.
I had a skit go through my head once about. I've told you this, I think. Someone goes to the doctor for something super benign, and they're in the room, and the doctor's like, "I'll be right back." And all of a sudden, this person slowly, their parents come in and see him and go, "How are you? Good to see you." And your first grade teacher, he's like, "What is going on?" Like you do when you're dying.
Gosh.
So yeah, my mind goes a lot on some of those things. It's so interesting though too. Kind of get back to the serious topic. How I'll look at things sometimes. And I'm like, the solution is this. This is what it is. And then, but other people are like, no, that's not. I don't want it fixed. I just want to talk about it.
What are you talking about?
Well,
I
you're
just want it fixed.
I get what that's saying.
I'm saying issues like they'll go, I just, issue, whatever these things. And I'm like, all right. Even here sometimes they'll say issue. I'm like, oh my God, here's the solution. It's a capacity problem. Whatever you have to figure out what your success metric is first.
Dad's saying that he wants to help and find the solution when sometimes the people just want to vent.
Yeah, sometimes people already know what the solution is. They're just venting or hashing out what the solution might be, or I don't need you to solve it for me. Like
I'm saying that's where people are very different, because I wouldn't bring something up unless I was thinking of a solution, or I was seeking a solution from someone else.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't think I would.
Yes, you do. You bring up stuff, and then you don't. I'm not like looking to solve the problem for you, but Jesus, otherwise people wouldn't talk. Like, of course, you talk about.
Yes,
stuff.
you talk about.
You're just viewing it as somebody bringing up a problem and then looking to give them a solution. Whereas when you do that, I'm just thinking you're talking. One, because I probably don't have any solutions to give you. So yes, people do that all the time.
No, but you find sometimes that people will talk about an issue. And I'm like, oh my God, here is the solution. You analyze it, and then fix it.
Yeah, but I don't think the person's doing that to find the answer.
I know
all the
that's
time.
my point, though. Is the difference?
So then
the way
it's very
people's-
helpful.
The way
if
people
Mr.
approach things are very different.
EQ, emotional intelligence person now, you should be able to say, are you looking for me to help you solve the problem? Or are you just wanting me to listen? And then the person would say, I need you to solve the problem. Or, no, I'm just venting right now. I'm good.
Right.
I already figured out what I'm doing. I just needed to be like, oh my God, like kind of thing.
Right.
And so the fact that so I just think you're just thinking when they're doing that, they're just always needing a solution.
Right.
And we're specifically talking about me.
No, not necessarily. No, we've had issues here at the clinic where it comes up 50 times. I'm like, okay, listen, this is the solution. If you've worked it out, great, but we don't have to talk about it every single meeting.
Right. I think we've gotten better about that, especially with meetings and running the meetings a certain way, and then topics.
Because I always go back to efficiency and the bottom line of what does this cost you and those kinds of things. I'm like, if this is a recurring issue, then you need to figure out the solution. You really shouldn't talk about it. I mean, 3 or 4 times unless you have a solution you've got. And I think it's in actually one of those books. He said,
well, clearly,
he said, tell me, don't come to me and ask me what to do. Tell me what you're gonna do.
Well, that's that Greg Rochelle Harrison where he talks about being on the treadmill, right? Where he's saying, like, if you can't get the answer, you're on the treadmill. You're just spinning your wheels. You might just make a decision. Isn't that what he's saying? Just make a decision. Just decide. So I think that's where people get into that bad habit of they can't
complain. It's like, don't complain, fix it.
Or not even necessarily complaining. Just, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's like, okay, we just need to decide.
Right.
So, yeah.
So that's why I think it's interesting how 2 people approach things, because my mind works differently than others.
Well, and I think people's
No better or worse. It's just
No, right. I think people's experiences too, like all the things that are wrapped up into their thinking also play a role.
right.
So then it's super easy for somebody on the outside. But that's why when somebody says, yeah, I'm coming for a solution, you're coming to that person because they probably are able to like push all this other stuff aside. They don't have it weighing in on their decision. So then it's
Right.
easy. It's a clearer decision for
That's
that person.
objectivity. Yeah.
You know, so then the other person has, a clearer
You don't
perspective.
have that baggage that goes with everything
Right.
else, and I think, and that's probably where probably where, because I don't have a lot of that baggage, sometimes the solutions seem very oversimplified, and sometimes they're just not. I mean, the solution in my mind is very simple, but
Right.
it might not be
Right.
in reality.
So, yeah. Heavy topic for a Monday morning.
I think it's useful though, because I think people have the same experience, startups or otherwise. I think that it does help to think about things like that. And sometimes when you have these discussions, even if they are kind of heavy, helps you either hash things out in your mind or go down that logic train and figure out how to approach things.
Sure.
To resolve them.
Well, and I think that the more some people just need to talk to get the idea, because as they're talking, it helps them formulate the ideas in their head. So I think a lot of people, that's why some people are just wanting you to listen, because when they verbalize it and they say it out loud and then it's like, okay, no, that doesn't sound.
Have you ever had an
no.
experience on this? This happened a couple of times here where someone has come and they'll talk to me and I'm like, okay, wait, back up a little bit. I get it. This is an extraneous issue. Is this, say, their mission? Are they accomplishing their primary mission? Yes. Okay, great. So then you break it down and say, okay, so their primary mission they're accomplishing that. So this is a secondary issue that you're looking at. How do you fix this secondary issue?
Right.
And help them analyze that in their own mind to say, okay, great. If they're greeting, for instance, are they a great greeter? Yes. Okay, well, this other whatever it is a secondary thing. How do we approach it? And do you even approach it?
Right.
Is it really detracting from their primary mission?
Right.
So, and I think it helps sometimes, because sometimes people will say, they'll come to you with a complaint, and it helps, at least in my experience, helps them to analyze those things and break it down to prioritize and to say, is this even something I need to be burning up my mental energy and certainly your time with?
Right.
So,
yeah, I think, as we read the book, we can continue talking about that, because
Right.
it's probably a good thing for, I think that different, things, whether we're watching a podcast, of somebody else, or like the Rory guy,
Rory
or
Sutherland, yeah.
or even the book, the Leaders Eat Last book.
Right.
I think that if people want to know, a good idea probably is for us to say, okay, we're reading this book. We're on chapter 4. We're going to talk about part 2 next Monday.
Right.
And then they watch with us.
Yeah. That'd be a
Read
good
with
idea.
us. Talk with
All
us.
the books we read, especially the Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I haven't read Dichotomy of Leadership, the sequel to that, but that's probably one of the more profound, self-help's probably the wrong word, but enlightening books that I've read, at least in the last 10 years.
Right.
You'll find a lot of common themes amongst the different books that are out there, but this took a fairly novel approach, I think, to how to look at your own responsibility within your organization and how you manage certain tasks. It's really good.
Yeah.
Start with Simon Sinek's books are almost always really good. Start with Why, I thought was really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're reading that and reading some other sales books, things like that. We're usually reading 2 or 3 books at a time. So,
Well, Harrison's giving me the flashy minute sign, so we're up for this week, for the podcast for this week, but we'll be back next Monday.
next Monday.
And are we going to have any more special guests on in the
No
near
one's booked, I don't
future?
think.
Probably not next week, but maybe the week after.
So not next week, but maybe the next week or the next week after that, because I'm going to Kentucky September 30th for a Zoetis thing. So, if there's anything special you guys want to chat about with us, or in regards to the business, questions in regards to the business, or, how we handle this or that, and then we'll keep discussing the Leaders Eat Last book and the funny stories with the family. And I think that's it. So don't forget to check out our merch store It's the online store at asvcmerch.com. And visit us wherever you find podcasts. And thanks, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
5 Boys in a Business.